Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome in the class of Research Methodology. I am Muhammad Imran Saeed, and today we are going to study a very basic topic of research methodology, that is research. How we do research, how we get the answers of the questions, how we get the facts. So let's start with the definition of the research. In fact, research is one of the ways to find answers to your questions. So it is very simple, very basic definition. In fact, whenever you have some question or questions, then there is a method, there is a process through which we try to find out the correct answer. Let's move towards a better or more systematic, balanced definition. A careful, systematic, patient study and investigation in some field of knowledge undertaken to establish facts or principles. So in fact, research is not a haphazard process. It is a very careful and systematic process in which we get the observations, we get the proofs, we gather the proofs, and then we analyze them, and then we can provide the answer to that question. So in fact, this is some very much systematic kind of task. Research is structured inquiry that utilizes acceptable scientific methodology to solve problems and create new knowledge that is generally applicable. So that means, in fact, research is a process with the help of which we are using different scientific methods to prove something. And in fact, that must be new. Why new? Because the things that are already known, in fact, when we just talk about them or those, then it will not be research. Research is something that adds to the field, that adds to the knowledge. So that is why we always say that your idea can be small, but it must be unique. So now check the purpose of research. So what is the purpose? Reply or answer the questions with proofs. Number one, we must have a question. Number two, we must have the proofs, facts, data, anything that can help us to answer or reply the question. And the second thing for the research is should add to the knowledge. Sometime you would have heard that on a radio channel somebody says, today I did a lot of research and I gathered so many songs for you. In fact, that is not a research. That is in fact information gathering or data arrangement, but it is not research, because research asks for or asks to add something to the knowledge, to the field, right? Some knowledge to the field. So that means, in fact, we must have a valid question, proofs or facts and answers, and that question must add to the field, add to the knowledge. Now, research is a way of thinking. So we question about a phenomena, about anything, and then in order to get the answer of that, about that phenomena, of that question, we try to observe the things. Normally, if that is some scientific knowledge, then we perform experiments, we go for the simulations. That means we are observing, we are examining the things, right? And then when we observe, we get the data through that experiment, then we analyze it and we come to some conclusion, and it helps us to answer the question. So the first thing is there must be a question, there must be a method to get the data, to observe and then analyze the data and then conclude. So it is a very proper way to think. So if it is some phenomena in the space, in our universe, so you would have seen that scientists are getting the data all the time, right, from the space, and then on the basis of that data they increase to the knowledge. They come to a point that increases the knowledge, that increases or adds to the field. So this is something, a way of thinking is research. Now we have different areas, different uh, subjects in which we can use our mind to get the knowledge. So the first thing, I will skip science, I'll come up with the philosophy. So in fact, how we know in philosophy, it is the abstract mind. I take a phenomena and I think about it with my mind. I get the arguments from my mind, I get the questions from my mind, and then whatever my mind gives me, in fact, that is something that is philosophy, right? So the big philosophers, they give us the peace of their mind, and in fact, that peace, that thought, that proven thing, in fact, adds to the philosophy. Next one is the religion. In fact, in religion, how we know, in fact, the things are normally revealed, right? Through some prophet, through some person who is sent by the creator, and then we have a faith, right? We have a faith in divine revelation and social tradition. So religion is something in which we do not perform the experiments, we don't have the observation. Those are the things that have been sent by the creator, that are sent by the Allah, and we just have faith in it. Then mystical. Normally there are few techniques, spiritual techniques, on the basis of which we can add to the mystical things. There is some mystery. So in fact, those spiritual techniques like jinn and etc. So in fact, for that we are not performing the experiment. Those techniques tells us about those things. Esoteric. In fact, intuitive speculation of cosmological worldviews. Remember, in fact, we have heard about the Bermuda Triangle, right? And we have got different theories. And now we can say that how we know the things that are esoteric, right? Those things are in fact something in which we speculate, we think, we try to explain, and that is the way we know about them. Then occult. In fact, normally we have some things that are supernatural, that are not natural but supernatural. In order to explain them, we use the psychophysical techniques, and then we try to find out the realities. So these are the way then that we know about different subjects. But in the science, we must perform some experiment, we must perform some activity that provides us the data, that provides us the proofs, facts, so that on the basis of which we can prove the things, we can reply the question. So science is different. In science, we always need the facts, we always need the data. So it is different. And as we are student of computer science, so we'll be more towards the experimentation, simulation. So with the help of that, in fact, we will perform our research, we will try to find out the new things, right? And we will try to prove the things. And now normally people confuse the research with something else. So what research is not? Research is not information gathering. So if you are getting the books from different sources, you are getting the research papers from different sources, you are getting the articles, and you are just putting them at a place, in fact it is not the information, it is not the research. Why it is not the research? Because we have already said that research should add to knowledge, it must be something new. But here what we are doing, already ready-made things, the things that have been proven, that have been written, that have been published by other people, we are just gathering that data, we are not contributing to the new knowledge. So in order to make it research, there must be some new knowledge in it. But when we gather the information, we gather the books and different kind of things, then it is not the research. The second thing is, research is not the transportation of facts. Sometimes it happens that we make a repository, we bring so many things and we put them in a place and we say that this is my repository of data about that topic. So it is not the research. In fact, what you have done, you have only transported the facts. You have taken the proven things from one place and brought all of them at one place. So in fact, these are not the research, or this process is not the research, rather it is the transportation of facts. So no contribution to the new knowledge, right? This might make existing knowledge more accessible. It will be easier for you to find out a research paper, to find out a particular topic, to know about a particular researcher or author. It is there. But the thing is, in fact, it has given us the ease by putting them at one place. But it is again not adding any information. It is not adding any new thing in the field. So it is not research. So what are the characteristics of research? Research is a process for collecting, as I told you, in the scientific research, normally we are collecting, we are getting the data, right? And in fact, that data is produced with some proper method. So research is process for collecting and analyzing and interpreting information to answer the question. And when we perform research, in fact, our research has some specific kind of characteristics, some very common kind of, very different kind of, not common, different kind of parameters or the characteristics that we consider. Number one, controlled. In science, whenever we perform an experiment, we take care of the environment of that area in which we are performing the experiment. The reason is research must be repeatable. If I am doing some research, another research must be able to repeat that experiment to prove or disprove or criticize my research by repeating that experiment. So I will explain the temperature was this, the pressure, air pressure was this, and this, and then I performed this experiment and I collected the data. So now check, we have few characteristics: controlled, rigorous, systematic, valid and verifiable, empirical and critical. Check. Controlled, necessary to control in scientific experiments due to effects of different variables. As I told you, in fact, normally when we perform an experiment, we take care of temperature, air pressure and other variables, so that if somebody wants to repeat the experiment, he will keep the same controlled environment and then perform the experiment so that he or she may get the same result as I am getting. Rigorous, normally whenever we are performing the research in science, we are very much careful and we use the method that provide us the accurate data. So normally you would have seen that whenever we use some operators, we set the zero error so that the error point must be known and we must not have the wrong values. So careful and accurate methods should be used to answer the question. Systematic, as I said, it is not haphazard thing. In research we move systematically, so the procedure or method adopted should have a logical sequence. Number one, I will perform some observation, I will think about some phenomena, I will gather the research papers, then I think about it, I just formulate a question, then I think about the hypothesis. So there are steps, so we perform each step and then we perform the research. Valid and verifiable, remember one thing, in fact, if I am doing some research, I must keep in mind that anybody else must be able to repeat the same experiment, the same simulation, the same process, whatever the method is. Why? In fact, the reason is normally every other researcher can challenge my research. So he must be able to validate or verify my research. So I must do some I cannot say that In my dream I saw that. No, it is not science. Science is the thing in which whatever I can do, the others can validate, the others can verify, and they can check their results with mine. So it is something that if I'm doing something, it can be checked by the others. Empirical. Now you must check that. Empirical means whenever there is some data, facts, anything. So now what happens means all the conclusions have been drawn on the basis of hard evidences, data, observation, calculation. So in the scientific research, we cannot say that my mood was this and no. You will have to perform an experiment or do some or adopt some research method that give you the facts, that give you the data, the observations, and then you can say that it is my data, and from this I can conclude this particular answer to the question. Critical. Normally, the method or process selection is crucial as it affects the result. Now, I can prove my answers with two different methods. So what will research methods to get the data? So now it is up to me. I select the most appropriate method as per my question. I can give you a very simple example. In science, we are conducting normally experiments. In computer science, we are changing an algorithm, we are giving a new technique, and then we are running it on the computer. We are getting the time of computation, and then we compare. So we are doing but something that is giving us the data. But on the other side, in the software engineering, we see that there are normally survey. So in the social science, surveys are more than the software engineering even. So there we give a questionnaire. The recipients, they just fill the questionnaire and they send those back to us or submit on the Google Doc or the Google form, and normally from there we get all their data and we process that. So that is another method that is used for the social sciences, because they do not perform the experiments on the people. In anthropology, they live with them and they learn again with the help of the observations, but they are not experimenting, right? So what they are doing, their method is more towards the surveys, right? And they check and get the data and prove how they live, what kind of the jobs they do, what kind of food they like. So they have their own method to get the data. Types of research. We can in fact classify or divide our research into three different classes: application of research study, objectives in understanding the research, and inquiry mode employed. So in fact, it is not that if our research is of type 1, it cannot be any of the other two. It can be 1 and 3, 1 and 2, 2 and 3. So in fact, these are not mutually exclusive. Our research can be application of the research study and inquiry mode employed. So let me tell you about the details of these three classes. Application. So now, what is the application of research? Normally, how we apply that research. If I'm doing some research, will that be applicable in the world, in our own society, in our own domain? So now there are two broad categories inside the application domain. So pure research and applied research. Pure research is something that typically involves the getting the data and proving something. It is again research. So involves developing and testing theories and hypotheses that are intellectually challenging to the researcher, but here it is important, may or may not have practical application at present or in future. We are just doing it for the purpose of research. I know that it will not be applicable. We will not be able to apply it in next 5 years maybe. So we are doing it only on the purpose of pure research. But on the other end, we have the applied research. In fact, this kind of research is something that is applied in our lives. So now check, research techniques, procedures and methods that form the body of research methodology are applied to collect information to use it for other purposes. So applied research is something that is applicable, that can be used, right? So we just prove with the help of those techniques, procedures, methods, right? And we research, we perform research, we do research, and after that we come up with some idea, we come up with some technology, anything that can be used in, or that can be applied in the real life. Objective. Now in this class we can talk about what is the objective of the research, what we want to do in the research. So now here again we have four broad categories: descriptive, correlational, explanatory and exploratory. In the descriptive research, in fact, normally if we have a phenomena, if we have some situation, we try to describe that phenomena, we try to describe that situation. So now in fact this research attempts to describe systematic, again research is systematic, we attempt to describe systematically a situation, phenomena, problem, event, anything. So in fact this is descriptive, in which we are trying to describe. Correlational research, in fact in this research we try to find out the relation between two or more variables, two or more situations, two or more aspects. So now check to discover or establish the existence of relationship between two or more aspects of situation or variables. So now here we try to check the effect of one variable on the other. It is directly proportional, it is inversely proportional. So we try to prove that, and that is known as correlational research. Now explanatory research, sometimes we have a phenomena that we want to explain, not only describe, we want to explain that. So that kind of, the objective of the research, of that kind of research is explanatory research, in which we explain some phenomena, we explain some problem or relationship between the things. So that is explanatory, we explain. Now exploratory, normally in the area where we have less information, we do not know much about anything, then we try to explore that new concept, that new phenomena, that new thing. So now check, exploratory research explores a phenomena or area where less information is available, means there is a need to explore, there is a need to find out more, right? So now if we have less knowledge in that area for that phenomena, we try to explore it out. So this is our objective to perform the research. These are the four categories. Now inquiry mode, in fact whenever we answer a question, normally we try to apply, or we try to acquire some process, some method, some mechanism. So now check what process you adopt to find the answer to your research question. Normally, in fact, we have different processes and we have divided those into two: the structured approach, quantitative research. Normally, in this case, we try to calculate, we try to quantify, we try to get some numbers, right? So normally you may check, even in the social sciences, these two approaches are used, structured and unstructured. So we want to quantify the findings and variation. For example, how many people have a problem? Nowadays we are going through the COVID. So normally there is an inquiry mode, and they are performing their research, they're doing their research, they're getting the data, they're analyzing the data, and on the basis of correct, unbiased results, they give us some new theory, some new concept. So now check when we have to quantify. But on the other end, we have unstructured approach, that is not quantifying or quantitative, it is qualitative. Normally I say that the people of that area are very friendly. So in fact what I'm doing, I'm not talking about any number, I'm not talking about some data that is quantifiable. I am giving some specific kind of information that I got through observations, that I got through the different survey forms or experiences of others. So what is it? In fact, comparatively flexible if qualitative findings are required. For example, description of the habits of some community. That community behaves like this. Those people, they normally are very much honest people. Those people never tell a lie. So in fact, here no number is required. We are not quantifying. We are in fact in a research that is qualitative, right? So this is the inquiry mode, and these are the two types of the or categories of inquiry mode. So now check again the types of research. We just talked about exploratory investigation. So wherever we have little understood activities or phenomena, we try to find out we try to explore it, right? So our question becomes, what's out there, right? What is it? Why it is happening? So in fact, normally the exploratory research or investigation gives us something that is sort of, what is this, right? So we get to know more about it. It is new phenomena, new situation, new some activity. So we try to find out about it. So it is normally what's out there kind of questions. Number 2, descriptive, accurately describes the activity or phenomena. So in the descriptive, we describe how many, how long, so what's it look like question. So these are the things that describe the phenomena, that describe or give us the description about that phenomena, that activity. Third one is evaluative. Normally, in fact, if something has been done, we try to evaluate that research. So now check, discover if something, project, program, method, process is doing the things it was designed to do and how to improve it. So we check how it is doing that and can we improve it or not. So in fact, we are evaluating that particular kind of algorithm, kind of code, kind of project, program, anything. So we are trying to evaluate that, and normally we have in our mind that how it can be improved. Explanatory, as I told you before, that normally we explain the phenomena, the activity, the thing, right? So explain why something looks like it looks or happens the way it happens, the forces causing the event or phenomena. So in fact, we are explaining the phenomena, the activity, anything. So what's related or associated with this question? So in fact, we explain that this thing happened because this thing was there, or this thing happened because of this thing. So these are the explanatory research. And next one is predictive. It is very common. Forecast likely outcomes of behavior. For example, if this condition is true, then this thing will be. So normally we are predicting something on the basis of our experience or data. So this is predictive type of research. Now, paradigms of research. Normally we have two main paradigms. One is totally towards the science and other is towards the social sciences. So let me explain that. Broadly, there can be two main paradigms, positive and naturalistic. In the positive, we have a very systematic research approach, a very very systematic paradigm of research, scientific approach. So the paradigm that is rooted in the physical science. So as I told you, in fact, whenever we talk about the science, in order to prove that phenomena, that particular action, we perform the experiments or we go for the simulation. So that experiment or simulation gives us the data. So it is very much systematic, scientific, that we prove the things with the data, with particular data that we are getting for that question. Then naturalistic, more towards the social sciences. Ethnography, normally you want to know about the people, their behavior, the way they live, the way they do their tasks, so it is different. So our concern would be more towards the positive approach, that is systematic or scientific approach, right? So the research process, a quick glance. Now we have studied, but we will check. Research is a step-by-step systematic process. Now check for collecting data, right? For collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data or information to answer the question. We studied that. Now it has 3 basic stages, and normally we divide research process into 8 steps. Remember one thing, every book gives us different numbers of steps, right? So it is not something that you stick on it and you say that no, we just studied that there were 8 steps, so there cannot be 9 steps or 6 steps. So every scholar, every author will give you a different number of steps, but as we are just studying with the reference of something, so we have these 8 steps. Number 1, formulating a research problem, what you intended to find out. So there must be in fact some question that we want to answer, for which we want to get some reply, right? So number 1 is formulate a research problem. Number 2, conceptualizing a research design. Now in fact we have many research methods, we will study those, right? And we will have to select the best research method so that we may get the accurate results, valid results, and we may prove the phenomena, we may reply the question with the help of all those correct data. Step number 3, constructing an instrument for data collection. Normally check in computer science, whenever we want to prove that our algorithm is better than an algorithm A, then what will we will do? We normally write an application, we perform some coding into it, or we get it coded by the junior students and we ask them, okay, you code it, my work is research, I want to prove it theoretically, you apply that, and in fact that application, when it will run, it will give us the data. We will calculate time, okay, it took this much time and this much time and this much time. So in that case, in fact this application is the instrument. In fact it is that particular technology or something that will collect data for me. And in the social sciences, as I told you, there are questionnaires. We design the questionnaire, what questions we will ask to answer our question. So in fact here we have a questionnaire kind of thing, and in our case we have applications, experiments, or maybe some pseudocode that we can dry run and prove. So we must have an instrument. Selecting a sample. Now what we will do, best available sample depending upon cost and resources. Now you will have to select the samples, you have to get the you must know that I will perform this experiment for this many times on this machine. It will have this much RAM, this much hard disk, this much powerful processor. So many things we decide over here. And in the social sciences, we select the sample to whom we will ask the question, which segment will be asked the question, will we ask all the segment of the society. So that is something, selecting a sample. Writing a research, now we are ready to start the research. So what will we do? We will write a research proposal in which I will write down what question I want to answer, now which method I will use, and what will be the mechanism to prove or to provide me the data, and then on what data set, in the case of computer science, what data set I will perform my experiment or simulation, or in the society on which part of people we will go for the questionnaires or surveys. So these are 4 things on the basis of which we are writing a proposal. So preparatory work is done. Now we need to provide enough information to the supervisor and others about our study. What is the question, how we will answer, everything will be in my research proposal. And once it gets approved, my supervisor and the research committee is satisfied with the research proposal, you will start doing your research, you will run that application, you will float those questionnaires or survey forms, and then you will start collecting the data. Different methods or means to collect data can be used. I told you we will perform some simulation, we will get data. In network, we cannot make a network of 5,000 computers. So what we do, we use the network simulator so that we can set all the variables, and then we run our algorithm or our piece of code or our technique, and then we get the data. Once that data is collected, we move to the step number 7. We process the data. In fact, our data is with us. Now we will have to process that. We have to check the properties of the data, which are more concentrated data, focused data, which data is outlier. So what we are doing, we are just processing and analyzing the data to process data so that it becomes useful for replying the question. My data must be arranged or analyzed in a manner that on the basis of that data I may reply the question that I put in the start of the research. And last step is, when we are done, we have proven, write a research report. In fact, now you have added to the field, you have added some knowledge to the field, so you have to tell it to the others. So now write a research report or research paper to inform others that what you have found. So this is something, these are the 4 steps. You need not to memorize the 8 steps. You need not to memorize these, because I am telling you these are not static. Every author gives different number of steps, but more or less we are moving in the same manner. Now check, can we formulate a problem statement easily? No. In fact, lots of prior studies and knowledge is required for formulating a research problem. In fact, normally when we want to start some research, we have to think that, do we have enough knowledge? Otherwise, if I do not have the knowledge, I will not be able to tell at which level in this field people have worked. So maybe I'll be doing something that has been solved or resolved 10 years ago. So this is something that for the literature review, for the formulating a problem, we need the literature survey, we need to study the literature of others, the work of others. So it will be we will discuss in the other class. So that's all for today. You just read it out and send me the questions. Inshallah, I'll try to answer those, right? And thank you very much. See you all in the next class. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.